I lost my virginity late, and I'll tell you just how late in a second. But I remember growing up and there being all this pressure from all of my friends and all the guys that I knew of, had you had sex yet? Are you still a virgin? And I remember feeling that pressure because I was such a late bloomer, right? Here is a secret. I didn't actually hit puberty till I was 17, nearly turning 18 years old. That is catastrophic and so embarrassing. At that age, I literally didn't even really have any pubic hair. It was so embarrassing. Seemingly it wasn't on the cards for me because there was nothing I could do about it. My body just wasn't ready. And that's at 17. I've seen these videos where they talk about being a virgin. It's like, oh, they weren't having sex at like 14, 15. I'm like, bro, I was still a child at that point. But it's not like when I turned 17, it got any better. I then went off to university. And even at that point, it felt like everyone else was hooking up and having sex. And I wasn't. And this made me feel super ashamed about who I was, that I wasn't good enough. And all I really wanted was a girlfriend, and it just wouldn't happen for me. And the years kept going by, and I started to get really concerned. I was starting to think that maybe it was just never going to happen for me because I'd fallen so far behind everyone else that everyone else must be amazing at this by this time. And I'm the only one left. There's no one else around me. And I even started to lie and pretend like I had just to make myself feel better in conversations. But then all that did was make me feel more ashamed because I'd lied to try and get the validation of others that I'd done this thing. So, I'm no longer a virgin now. Well, hey. But it did take till I was 22 years old for me to finally lose my virginity. And I'm going to talk you through some of the major things that I would tell probably my 21-year-old self if I could send a message to that guy who was in that position, who was 21 years old and still had never been in a proper relationship with a girl, still felt like he was having to lie about who he was because of that external pressure to be the man, to be the guy that everyone seems to look up to because he's able to get so many girls. Because that simply wasn't who I was. I was someone who was shy and pretty insecure about himself physically and just almost in every single department. But the thing is, that's not who I am anymore. And now I've had plenty of really awesome relationships with girls, but it all comes back to what I did when I was 21. So here are the notes that I would give, and to anyone else who is out there that might be in this similar position. Firstly, not everyone is having sex. You feel like you're the only one that isn't. You feel so isolated that it just feels like absolutely everyone is doing this, and they have been since you were like 15, 16. When in reality, that is simply not true. The older I've got, the more I've come into contact with a bunch of guys that lost their virginity late, and especially a lot of girls. There's this misconception that girls will always lose their virginity sooner, but like, I've met a lot of girls through my 20s who either had maybe one or two previous partners or none at all. Because the thing is, the people that do end up having sex earlier, they end up bumping up the numbers. It ends up being the people that have a lot of sex together, and it's just these people all sleeping with each other, which create this image that it's everyone, when actually it's just like a subset of people that are all just sleeping together. And then you look at that and it makes you feel bad, but it's not everyone. And this was something that helped me get over it, that if you've not had sex with anyone, my recommendation would be to be what I did. I ended up getting into a relationship with a girl who had also not slept with anyone, because it's a hell of a lot more comfortable to go through this process with someone else that is, let's say, new to it as well. That this is the big fear of the guy, that he's meant to feel like he's super experienced and he's super amazing at being intimate with a girl. But there's plenty of girls out there that are at your level, and so you will probably end up gravitating to them as well, because the thing is, the girls that are super open, expressive and sexually liberated, you just won't have that same chemistry with them, because it bleeds into every aspect of your personality. So if you're an inexperienced guy, you probably just won't end up in situations with girls who are on that other end of the spectrum, because there just won't be the heat and chemistry. You'll end up being naturally drawn to people that are a little bit more reserved with how they approach sexual encounters. And so if you're looking for the way out and this magical thing to finally sleep with someone, I wouldn't recommend a one night stand. One, because it'll put a hell of a lot of pressure on you, which you probably don't need on a first time, because speaking from experience, the difference between sleeping with someone in a relationship versus a one-off encounter is night and day. Like, being in a relationship where you're comfortable and you have that previous intimacy is so much better than just having that awkward drunken one night stand. So look for someone that you can find to maybe have a relationship with, and that might be easier said than done, but I guarantee it's worth the effort of looking to just find someone to have that real connection with. And you will connect to people, and there are girls out there. Do not listen to these fucking red pill bastards out there that are just like, oh yeah, all girls are hoes now. Nah, I think that's... Any guy that seems to believe that all girls are like sluts or anything like that, that is a bad reflection on them, because that just means that all the girls that they have interactions with are that kind of girl. I know all the girls that I speak to and my friends, they're just normal. They're just normal girls. And I think the red pill, like, fresh and fit types just bring... The girls that they complain about are the ones that they bring into their sphere. So it creates this illusion of what modern girls are like, which is simply not true. Also, I'd pass on the message to my younger self that it's not that big a deal. Like, you don't just wake up the next day after you've slept together and just be like, oh my God, I am a new man now. I can conquer the world. I'm the boss. It's like, nah, it's cool. Like, it's cool and it's fun, but it's not going to make you an entirely different person. It might relieve some of the stress and shame you have, but it's not going to change who you fundamentally are. So don't put all this pressure on this idea that once you've done this thing, you will now be amazing. You will now have all your problems fixed. That's really fucking unlikely. Going through it, it should just be something that you look forward to and happens ideally within the confines of a relationship. Because I'll let you in on a secret, there was a bunch of opportunities where I may have been able to lose my virginity sooner, but I just failed to perform because I was so stressed out in my mind of like, oh my God, it's now the time. It's finally happening. Oh, I need to be amazing. I need to perform to the best of my ability. Oh my God. And I went in with such a horrible mindset that by the time we were going to be intimate, I was not rising to that occasion. And rather than putting on the best performance in the world, I put on no performance. And that's the advantage of being with someone that you're already comfortable and intimate with. You don't really have this because you've already built up that rapport, so it doesn't feel as pressurized. So I would hammer home that if you are a guy that's a virgin, the biggest change that I made was starting to look for a relationship to be able to meet someone and do it that way. Don't just look for the cheap one-night stand. It's not going to be worth it. It's not going to be good for you, and it's probably not going to be good for her. No offense, but the likelihood of you being a champ on your first time is real bloody low. So looking for a relationship to then progress gradually into it and then just have actually an awesome sex life, because that girl that I lost my virginity with, we ended up having an amazing sex life, and it was just because we'd gone through the process of understanding and being comfortable with each other first before we slept together. And like, I'm not a prude. I'm not saying that you shouldn't ever just have those fun one night stands. Yeah, they're great little memories. But if you're feeling insecure about the fact that maybe you've not slept with someone, understand that not everyone has. There are plenty of people in your position. Like, I was 22 years old, and I know a bunch of other people that are the same age, older than that, boys and girls, right? Then look for a relationship where you can be intimate together to do it. And thirdly, you're still going to be the same person who comes out the other side. So don't put too much pressure on it. You're still going to be that exact same guy. You're just going to have experienced a little bit more in life. So go out, find that relationship. And if you're struggling and you're struggling to meet somebody, then I've got a video where I break down the 5 main things stopping you getting into a relationship, because this is the major thing. If you're still struggling to get out of being a virgin, the relationship will help solve that. And if you're missing out on that, check out this video here and it will run you through the 5 things that are stopping you get the relationship that you want.